Hey guys, today we're taking a look at my Gimmick Puppet deck. Now, Gimmick Puppets were requested by FL Racing 84 and David Wilford, and I've had a Gimmick Puppet deck for a little while, but because a bunch of new cards just came out, I know a lot of people wanted me to try to do a new one. So, trying a lot of cool things in this deck, and I'll just get right into the cards. So first off, Dreary Doll. So Dreary Doll is pretty much the main focus of the deck now. It's just such a good card that you can easily special summon it back. You have to really keep in mind the negatives to it, that you can't use its effect more than once per turn, and you can only summon Gimmick Puppets. So it's very important that you understand what plays you're going to do with this card. But this card makes the deck very consistent, very abusable, that you can keep reusing it, after it gets detached and stuff like that. So you have a lot of comeback even after you use the XYZ. So it has a lot of potential, and this card makes the deck flow really well. And then we have Magnet Doll. So Magnet Doll is really, really good. Just letting you special summon when you have Gimmick Puppets. Obviously, this deck uses non-Gimmick Puppets too. So if you want to make full use of this card, you can run just pure Gimmick Puppets. But still very, very good, and just allows you to, keep resummoning and making things work. And then Egghead. So Egghead, I still think is a really great fundamental card to dump Gimmick Puppets and increase its level, which is just fundamentally how Gimmick Puppets work. Great to dump cards, great to have a level 4 that becomes a level 8. So I really like Egghead. His burn damage effect isn't as important, but still can be useful if you're not interested in XYZing with him right away. And then we have two Scissor Arms, so just allowing us to, again, send Gimmick Puppets to the graveyard, so we can make use of all the really cool graveyard stuff without, using up our hand. So I really like having Scissor Arms in this deck. And then we have three Machina Cannons, so you really want to have some abusable 8-star machines. Machina Cannon, probably one of the best cards to do that with. You can make a lot of interesting stuff later on, and also allows you to dump Gimmick Puppets, so it flows really well. Machina Gearframe, giving us somewhat of a beater that searches out Machina Cannon, allowing us to do more plays. With the Machina Engine, we do have one Machina Fortress. Not the focus of this deck. I know Fortress is a really good card, but not the focus. You could run more if you really want to, but just not what you're trying to do, because we don't want 7 stars, we want 8 stars, but still can be good. And then two Gearspring Spirits. So Gearspring Spirit is another one of those 8-star machines that you can really get out very easily with this deck. It can get in the way of some of the XYZing, but you're focusing so much on the machine XYZing that it shouldn't really run into things too badly. But you can always, bring out whatever you want, and bring out just machines, and just choose what you want to do to make it work with Gearspring Spirit. So now for the spells, Junk Puppet that just got released, obviously gonna staple. Run this at 3. Any card that can special summon your entire archetype from the graveyard, that's just too good not to use. So definitely want to run this at 3. And then to rank up Argent Chaos Force, so really powerful for this deck, giving us access to those number Cs, and then we can recycle it, which is a really cool effect additionally. And a lot of the Gimmick Puppet rank Cs are really cool. This isn't like a completely focused rank up deck, but it kind of is supported with the rank up, so just some things I'm using there. 3 Trade-In, a lot of 8 stars in this deck. Trade-In, great for this deck too, dumping things in the graveyard, so it makes it flow really well. 2 Soul Charge, again a lot of graveyard stuff, a lot of things we could do, and we can use Gimmick Puppet's effects to not really necessarily need the battle phase too, so it can be really useful. 1 Foolish Barrel, doing the same thing as Scissor Arms. 2 Forbidden Lance, because we're using these powerful XYZs, find that to be very useful. 2 MST to get rid of things that might run in the way of us. Limiter Removal can lead to insane plays with this deck. Dark Hole. Inferno Reckless Summon, really, really powerful in this deck. When you're special summoning Magnet Doll or Dreary Doll, you can activate this, and you can do some really crazy things with this. And one really easy way to get out Leo, which is pretty cool. And then 3 Royal Decree. You can also run like Trap Stun or things like that, or run less spells, run more traps. I find that you need a lot of spells to support this deck, so it's up to you. So now for the extra deck, we're going to be running a few 4 stars. You definitely don't want to focus much on them because it runs in the way of some of the things you're doing. But Gear Gigant is one of those cards that won't run in the way of stuff, so it can be nice. But then the ones you'd expect, Silent Honor, Exciton, Gagaga. For the 8 stars, obviously, fundamentally a huge part of the deck. So we're going to be running 2 of those normal Gimmick Puppets. Number 40 and number 15, very powerful. You'll be expecting to get these out most of the time. And then 1 Leo, just in case you want to go for that win, but a bit harder to go for that. Not really the goal of the deck, but kind of an interesting thing you could do. And then 1 number C15, 1 number C40. Very powerful cards. that you'll be able to set up very easily. You can run more copies of this. It depends on how you're layering your extra deck, and run more rank ups and all that stuff if you want to do that. But very powerful cards, so can be very useful. And then one of number C88, really crazy card. If you can get this out, can be really fun. So just kind of another thing I'm throwing in there. You could definitely run Gimmick Puppets without a lot of these cards, but I like to have access to all these really cool number Cs that Gimmick Puppets have. We do have some of the staple 8 stars. Again, not the focus of this deck. You can't use Dreary Doll to summon them, and obviously it'll get in the way of Gearspring, but still very powerful in the right situations. Hieratic Sun Dragon, Felgrand, and number 22, just because you can get that out with some of the stuff that you have. So for the side deck, if you haven't seen a video of mine before, in the side deck I kind of just talk about, recommended cards that could be really useful for this deck. So some of their ideas that people are thinking about and I've seen people use. Not meant to be for matches, not a side deck for matches, so don't try to think of it that way. So there's a lot of other Gimmick Puppets in the archetype, and I want to quickly talk about some of them. A Humpty Dumpty can be useful to make quick special summons, and you can do some interesting stuff with this deck and some of the new cards. I'm not really won over by this card yet. I might need to try it more to get interested in it, but I've seen some people run it. There's a bunch of other 8 stars, Nightmare and Twilight Joker I used in the early other deck, but now we have better 8 stars, so I wouldn't say to run this. Same thing with Shadow Feeler. I don't think it's as useful as the other 8 stars that you have access to, but you do have these cards if you want to run, a pure Gimmick Puppet engine. And Gimmick Puppet Gear Changer, I just find this is way too slow for this deck, but again, another interesting thing that you can do to make those plays happen. You won't need another Gimmick Puppet in your hand like Egghead, so definitely interesting. I could see some plays with it. Anything that sends things to the graveyard could be useful. Dark Grepher, Armageddon Knight, Shreddder is an interesting one that I've seen some people run. If you want to have access to Synchros, even though this is a very XYZ focused deck, Black Salvo, Genex Ally can be interesting. Dark Arm Dragon with a dark base deck. Another Gimmick Puppet that I've seen some people run, Gimmick Puppet Destroy. So I really don't like this card for the way I'm running the deck. If you're running more Gimmick Puppets, that might clog your hand. I could see this being interesting, but overall, Gimmick Puppets are so focused on the graveyard that I really don't like that his effect is used from the Gimmick Puppets from the hand. So, it's up to you. I've wanted to try this card in the Gimmick Puppet archetype, but it's just not running the way I want it to with the deck I'm using. Again, use more of a pure build, Gimmick Puppets, use more 8 stars. I could see it being useful, easier ways to get out some of those other higher level Gimmick Puppets. But, I'm fine with using the graveyard for what I need to do. There's another Gimmick Puppet support card, Puppet Ritual, which is very, very situational. I was running it in my last Gimmick Puppet deck, but you run into issues because it's so situational. Allure of Darkness, Trap Stun, like I was saying, Number Wall, some number support cards could be interesting because it's pretty much a full number deck, so but definitely interesting if you want to run that stuff. And there's a ton of XYZ support cards that you can run that just can work out with this deck because you're summoning so many XYZs. So that's my Gimmick Puppet deck, my updated version of the old deck. Having a ton of fun with it. So many options you can make. Even though it adds up to a lot of the same things, XYZing the same monsters, it still has a lot of versatility with the ways it can special summon and bring things out. So I'm finding it being very useful and very consistent. But if you guys have your own Gimmick Puppet decks, you could post below, let me know in the comments, make some suggestions for me. Maybe there's some cards I didn't think about, so let me know. But as always, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you later.